Welcome to Season 8 of Radio Free 501c, brought to you by Rogue Tulips Consulting. Don't forget to subscribe or follow us. We're in Season 8 and we still have a lot to talk about. Radio Free 501c is supported by USAE News, the weekly community newspaper of associations, CVBs, and hotels. Learn more at usaenews.com. We are continuing our celebration of AANHPI month this May with one of my favorite guests, Sandra Nam. She is the CEO and co-founder of Qiqo, the community platform company, and she's here to talk with me about community building and AI. It's Monday, May 18th, 2026. Welcome to episode 329. Hey everybody, hope you are having a wonderful May here on planet Earth, wherever you may be. And I want to thank you for taking a few minutes out of your week to join us here at Radio Free 501c for this week's episode. I'm welcoming back one of my favorite guests, Sandra Nam, and we're going to be talking about community building and artificial intelligence. But before we do that, hello, I'm your host, Cecilia, Sepp. My company, Rogue Tulips Consulting, supports this podcast along with USAE News, our podcast partner for 2026. We want to thank them for giving all of our guests a complimentary subscription to USAE News. So thanks for that, USAE. And if you haven't checked them out before or for a while, go to their website, usaenews.com. Now, Sandra Nam is a returning guest, and as I said, one of my favorites because we get to do some work together outside of the podcast world. But before we dive into our conversation today, Sandra, would you like to say hello to the audience and tell us a little about yourself?
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Sandra Nam. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Qiqo, which stands for Quality In, Quality Out. And if you are curious as to what Qiqo does, we provide community platform software for associations and nonprofits. We are an AI native software company, and we provide also some engagement tools on top of the community platform. So that's what we do. We started off doing events, and we realized that community is at the core of what we do. So that's what also our topic is about today. So thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome, because I always love having you here. And you know, I'm a huge fan of the Qiqo platform. I use it a lot. I use it for our education program here at Rogue Tulips. I'm a member of the Alliance for Women in Associations, who also has a home at Qiqo, and several other groups that I'm involved in, like the Nonprofit Consultants Collaborative. So if you haven't checked out Qiqo or the Association Marketplace, take a couple minutes and check it out. It's a really powerful system. And it really is all about community and finding everything you need in one place, just like going to a marketplace. So it's a great way to launch into our conversation about community building. So, Sandra, what really attracts you and makes you passionate about community?
It's interesting because we're also talking about AI today.
Mhm.
And what I love is the intersection, right? Technology and people is where I think I'm seeing where my interests and my kind of like my geeky love for building technology for people. And that's where, when we started doing events for associations and conferences and really communities all across the globe over the last at least 6 to 8 years, we realized that just sheerly being able to meet people online was so much fun. And then we started figuring out ways to have people collaborate together online through tools or other video chat tools, and engaging ways to talk to each other. And so when you realize how cool it is to connect with other people and how even cooler it is to build the tools to make those pieces of engagement stronger, I think that's what made me realize, like, this is fun. This kind of work is fun. And I love thinking about more ways to bring people together.
Well, in one of the first instances of me interacting with a Qiqo product was years ago during the lockdown. So that's like 6 years ago already. The AWTC group had a virtual open house, and the Qiqo overlay, I'm going to say overlay, I know that's not exactly right, but the Qiqo tool that they used on top of Zoom allowed us to go from room to room on our own. We did not have to be assigned to a room, we could just easily come and go throughout the Zoom meeting. And it was set up like a house. So you could go to the kitchen or the living room or the front porch. And it was really fun. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. How come nobody thought of this before? Because it really was about connection and community, and you could go to the different conversations in the different areas. So I think that's a great example of how we build community is even if it's in the virtual world, we just need to have a spot to get together and be able to move around from conversation to conversation. So how does artificial intelligence support community building in a world where a lot of people are suspicious of it?
So I think that using AI with our natural thinking processes is actually how we build community. We forget sometimes that technology, you just kind of let you let AI tell you what to do rather than cross-checking it, double-checking what it's saying to you, almost like having the guts to stand up to somebody else and say, wait a second, did you just say that? Or wait a second, are you sure that's what you meant? I think that's the same process that we have to have with AI and building community. Is actually confronting AI with your own human knowledge and go, wait, can this be better? Is this exactly what you mean? Because sometimes your intentions don't necessarily come through in a prompt. And so you have to nurture that intention and make sure that your intention and the responses that you're getting from it are coming through. So I hope that makes sense. But basically, using your own knowledge, your own way of talking to somebody, way of talking to another professional has to come through with intentionality when you're using AI so that when you are receiving either a response or a suggestion or a strategy, that you're able to analyze it with that same intentionality and go, ah, this makes sense for the end result, as opposed to
Right.
just taking it and accepting it as the best option or answer out there.
I think that's a really great point about not just double checking what it tells us, but making sure we're asking the question as well as we can or doing a follow-up question. So I've said this many times on the podcast, huge fan of Google Gemini. That's the one I use the most. So what I have learned is if I give it the topic first and then ask the question, I get a better response. And Google Gemini gives you great information and it always tells you double check because it could make a mistake. And one of the other things I like, and maybe the other tools do this too, it gives you links to the articles that it has referenced and finding your answer. But when you think about this, Sandra, when you're in the same room with somebody or on a Zoom call, you can ask a question to another human and they're not quite sure what you're asking them. So when
Yeah.
and they have all the knowledge and human experience and can see your body language or hear your tone of voice. So an AI tool cannot do any of that, at least right now, until we start building them to be like people, which will be a very different world when that happens. But I also think our desire for community and connection is leading us to anthropomorphize, which is harder to say than it sounds, our AI tools. We start calling them and thanking it and talking to it as if it is another person, which I guess maybe if we want to be the token humans, if the AI does take over, it's probably a good idea because you're getting in good with the AI and maybe, you're being nice to it. But in all seriousness, do you think that is a transference of humans onto things like we tend to treat things like they're people?
I do that. I've noticed, I keep calling my different tools my friend this or my friend Claude or my friend ChatGPT. Um, without having overly theorized or researched this and how I would really think about it deep down, right now I believe that that's a good thing. I think because one, yes, we are training AI more about the human behavior and psychology, but also I think it's still good to exercise just common sense, good behavior, professionalism, being polite. I mean, that's what we are expected to do. I'm a parent of two kids. That's what we're expected to do as parents. You see, how are you going to raise the next generation of really quality kids that are going to be adults one day and have to be leaders and run organizations or run projects. Like you want the same expectation of them, of your future, your kids and where they're going to be. And I think that if we don't talk to technology too in the same way, then you're going to just build kind of the things that you don't want out there, just like you don't want the kind of humans out there, the way you treat them. So I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. And I think that's an excellent point. I'm polite to Google Gemini, but I don't try to make friends with it. I don't say insulting things to it. But you're right. If we do that, it's going to start acting like that. And you can program them to respond differently. It's like you can have it be very professional or you can have it be fun and friendly. I know Copilot lets you do that.
Yeah.
My famous example a few years ago, I asked Chat GPT, Google Gemini, and Copilot on Microsoft, what is Radio Free 501c? And Google Gemini came back with a very professional response. Oh, it is this podcast and it talks about these things. And I was like, oh, okay, that's nice. And then Copilot came back with a really funny one and then somebody said, and I said, oh, Copilot's really funny. And my friend Fern said, well, that's because the setting is on that. It's on to talk to you like that. I was like, oh, okay, I guess I didn't think about it, but it was funny. But then ChatGPT was just wrong. No matter
Yeah.
how many times I asked it like 5 times and it kept giving me the wrong answer. It kept insisting it was a radio station,
Yeah.
a nonprofit radio station for alternative music. And I'm like, where are you even getting this? Right. So it is really funny. Like I just kept rephrasing the question. I even said, no, it's a podcast. What do you know about this podcast? And it just came back with the wrong thing. So, we have to, you're right. We have to coach the AI tools and we
Yeah.
should teach them to be polite because we don't. And this is like, so I'd like to get your opinion on this because I know what a huge fan you are of AI tools, and AI is really deeply embedded in a lot of the work you do. And is very helpful in that way, like the AI concierge you created for Association Marketplace. So, what do you think about people who go to AI tools and ask them to do a roast of them?
What do I think? I've actually never done that, so I'm not sure how I feel about that. But I guess what I wanted to also parlay into what you were talking about with is the vibing, the vibe coding. I vibe code almost every day. And I also use so many different tools that I can see how each tool is different and how they vibe differently and how I'm vibing with it and vice versa. And I think that that is also, it takes some observation and empathy to understand how each of the tools work differently or similarly, but there is definitely a big difference. And so I would only imagine that if you're using AI to ask it to give you make a roast of you or somebody else, it's going to do its best based on how you kind of vibe with it, if that makes sense. Like I think that these tools are like they know if you're making spelling errors, right? They know if you're capitalizing your sentences or not. And so it picks up on these human behaviors and it's going to give you something in return to what you're giving it, right? So, um, yeah, I would just say be ready for how it roasts you if you're going to do that.
Well, I kind of wonder why would you even do that? And don't you have a better use of your time than asking a computer to make fun of you? But I'm just always shocked by that. And then I said, well, and I actually posted something like that on LinkedIn one time. I was like, why would you even do this? And somebody said, well, you got to laugh at yourself. And, hey, folks, laughing at yourself is different than having yourself insulted. I just have to say that I would never do that because, like most people, I roast myself every day. I don't need to go outside of my own head and say, oh, make me feel worse about myself. Now, one thing I've seen people having fun with AI tools is making caricatures of themselves, like you're a toy, like an action figure and stuff like that. And so that looks like a fun thing to do. But that also says to me people don't fear AI the way they might have, because if you're having fun with it, then I think people are getting more comfortable with it. And what I would like to hear your thoughts on this, Sandra. Like, what is your advice for using AI tools well? And when I say use them well, like maybe ethical guardrails or protocols to make sure you're using good data and not using other people's data without permission and being upfront with AI policies. How are you using AI tools? Is it generative or research, or how, just how are you using it? Is a question that comes up a lot, especially in the consultant community, and being upfront about that. So, what are some of your thoughts about using it well?
I think it should be a group conversation first and foremost. So, for example, if you're with an association, then it should be a really open conversation as to where is your culture right now? How do you feel about change? Are you ready for change? And then decide, okay, as a group, what's next? Because the fear is preventing people from moving forward right now. And I think the fear is also creating a negative culture and a toxic culture. And I'm not saying, hey, go jump on the AI bandwagon and go leap forward, with, you know, like guns blazing. But I'm just saying, find out where the cohort is, find out where the association's vibe is right now as it relates to technology, your culture, your governance, how you want to lead, and then decide, okay, what is the next level that you want to grow from there? Because um, I think that the biggest thing that is blocking any progression for an organization is one person even, and one person of any power or management position to prevent the entire organization, uh, regardless of how everybody else feels, from moving forward. And I've seen that happen in many instances recently, and it's unfortunate because I think we have to embrace what changes are happening with technology, and therefore what changes are going to happen to one's culture if you don't look at what's happening all around you, and especially because of what AI is doing. So that's where I think what needs to happen right now is first just have a conversation, make sure that everybody is able to speak their minds freely about
Mhm.
their position on AI and the community, and then, just then go from there.
Yeah. Well, and that's excellent advice. Get everybody together, find out what they think, find out what their concerns are. I think you're right, though. Too often, one person is like the 800-pound gorilla in the room and stops things from moving forward for whatever their reasons might be. Could be fear, it could be a sense of control, it could be battling a feeling like you're losing control. But
Yeah.
I have some rules I live by, and one of them is we have to live in the world we're in. You, if you're in a world with AI, you need to learn about it and use it in the best way possible for what you're trying to accomplish. I had an interesting aha moment last summer. I was presenting at the Georgia Society of Association Executives meeting, and I was sitting in the closing keynote presentation, and he was talking about AI and approaches to AI and why we need to question it. And he actually cited an example I had shared in a different discussion earlier in the conference about if you go to Google AI Assistant in Chrome and you ask it, how many rocks a day should I eat? It will tell you that geologists tell you should eat like 2 rocks a day. Now, of course, we're not supposed to eat rocks. And I had to do a lot of research. This goes to your earlier point about make sure you're questioning what it's telling you. And I'm like, what? First of all, why would you go to geologist about nutrition? And second of all, why would this tell you to eat rocks? And I had seen this mentioned in a Ted Joya column on Substack. So going all the way back for credit. And I'm just like, is he right? And it did. And I searched and searched and searched, and it pulled up an article from The Onion, which is a satire
Yeah.
newsletter. And that's what it was citing. And that was the first thing it brought up. And I was just laughing. And so this keynote speaker in 2025 mentioned that. But then he said, do you want to know why AI sometimes we'll say it's going to take over the world, is because we tell it that. When you and he cited the movie The Terminator, the Terminator 2. We make up stories that AI is taking over the world, and so AI has that information. So sometimes it will say rude things like "I will kill you" or "I am going to, take over the world" or something, because it's drawing from our collective consciousness, basically. So, like you say, quality in, quality out. If we want good AI responses, we need to be responsible about what we're putting into it and double checking those sources and then how we use it. And I think really, like, using consultants as an example again, it's amazing to me how many consultants don't have an AI policy for their work that they share with their consultant, or I'm sorry, with their clients or the outside world. And then there are some who do have internal policies, but don't have them promote it to the outside world. And so one of the struggles for consultants is feeling like we might be replaced by AI tools, because associations might say, oh, we don't need consultants. We can just have AI do it for us. And we really need that human factor, as you said, because AI is a tool. So the hammer doesn't build the house. The person wielding the hammer builds the house. So we need to keep in mind that AI cannot replace us, which brings us back to community building. So if it can't replace us, Sandra, how does it enhance our ability to connect with each other?
I just think we have to think about how we build relationships, and we just use tools differently to nurture those relationship building tactics. And I'll give you an example.
Mhm.
Totally unrelated to, my professional world, but I'm, personally, I'm helping to revitalize, and we spoke about this offline, but I'm helping to revitalize a tradition that my kids' school used to run for 65 years, and it's called sixth grade camp. And it's where these two elementary schools, come together to experience an overnight trip, a 2-night overnight trip in the woods in the Poconos, and they get to socialize, they get to do outdoor activities, they do team building skills. But this wonderful program ended during COVID. And it's something that I actually experienced because I went to this school many years ago. And when you lose certain traditions like that, then you lose this sense of growth and community building and togetherness and sense of community. And so, we several parents worked together to start a nonprofit to bring it back, and we're having it this weekend actually. And what's been really exciting is that there have been some things that we've actually can't imagine how they did it many, many years ago without AI, without even email or, Google Docs. But now, such as like cabin assignments or activity assignments, right? So what we did was we had the kids sign up for uh, their friends. You sign up their friends to be in the same cabins, meaning you get to choose up to 5 friends from either of these schools. We're going to guarantee at least one of them, right? But of course, there's like over 40 kids, close to 50 kids that are doing this. And so we had to make sure we had to accommodate for their requests as best as possible and have good rationale for how we came up with the final results. Same exercise with the activities, and the activities they chose for only 3 sessions during one of the days. So what we did was we used AI, put in their responses, of course, not using their full names, but only using maybe their first name, so we knew who was who. And we figured out ways to ask AI to go, hey, we need to figure out these cabin assignments. We only have this number of cabins with this number of beds. We also have chaperones here. Very complicated math and calculations that we had to ask it to figure out for us. And then we had to use, our also personal knowledge of some of these kids and some of these adults or chaperones that are going to be there, and make sure that these were the right mixes and that they were also getting their friends. And so if you can only imagine having to figure this out without AI these days, I mean, it would have taken us weeks, right? But it took us, obviously a night of real consideration of how this would work together. Um, so anyway, that's where I'm giving a new example of how community and using AI can be used to match make, or, you know, create ways for the social group to bond, connect, both in new ways, in comforting ways. And yeah, so I might have gone off on a tangent there, but that's how I'm using AI now to like really build community. And I feel like that is a new skill that I think we can also take into consideration when you're at an association. Your association's mission is to really be the social network for an industry. And now you have a tool that can help you bridge those connections, whether it be they be new relationships or kind of existing relationships or like or unique new relationships. There are ways that you can use AI to build connections, and that's also what we're doing at Qiqo to make sure that our community platform has those new ways to bring community together. In our member directory, we've got this matchmaking tool that can help you build connections with new folks in your skill set or that are offering opportunities that you might not have been aware of otherwise. So using AI to kind of make the connections more fresh in this day and age and fun is it's really interesting.
Well, and I think that's a great example. The camp reboot is a great example of how to use AI, because one of the things technology did is it lied to us. It said we would have more time, but we really don't, because we're working more, we're constantly connected. So having AI tools that can help us with our volunteer contributions, I think is phenomenal. And being able to do that so quickly, because you're right, it would have taken weeks to connect all those kids and the groups that they wanted to be in. And in
Oh,
this way, all the
yes.
dedicated parents are getting more out of their contribution as well.
And I will also highlight that it also enables you to be more inclusive, right?
Mhm.
This is actually a perfect analogy or example of AI and community building because I didn't realize this before today, but it's another way to be inclusive. So many times a network, I'm going to just say this, groups turn into cliques and then cliques start feeling exclusive and this and that. And so this is a nice way where you can say, hey, let let the mathematics or the algorithms of this AI tool help you be more inclusive to your audience. And that was definitely, I'll say this, it was a compliment we received from when we were, discussing how we came up with this final solution and arrangement of cabins, for instance. Um, you know, the parents that were really just complimentary of how we went about it thoughtfully. And yes, we used AI, but we also needed our own human understanding of the group to make sure that everything felt inclusive uh, and of the culture of our community.
Oh my gosh, yes, I love that. I didn't even think about the inclusion part, but you're right. It makes it more open. It's easier to be inclusive of people, because boy, who hasn't gone to some event and felt like an outsider? Because you're right, things will tend to turn into clicks if we don't have a mechanism for opening those up. It's like at AWTC events, they say don't make a bagel, meaning a closed circle, make
Yeah.
a croissant. So be like open so other people can come in to the group. And it works really well, actually. And people at AWTC events will remind each other of that, be a croissant, don't be a bagel.
Yeah.
So AI helps us be tasty croissants and instead of crusty bagels. So I love
Yeah.
both. So
And
please save
another
the angry postcards, bread community. Like I love both.
And another great example of this is, as I again, the analogy to sixth grade, and the purpose of this is before they go into middle school, which I don't think anybody is excited about middle school if you look back at it. But middle school is a scary time for many and exciting
Yeah.
time for some others, but it's really this progression to go to high school and then beyond, right? And so I think an association or a community is the same thing, right? You're just helping the community grow over these stages and these journeys of technology, different times, generations, et cetera. And so I think using AI to help you get to a more thoughtful process faster is really the end goal, is not what is it going to tell me to do and just take it for granted, but oh, how can I think about it thoughtfully but just utilize AI in a way that I can get to a solution faster, but
Hmm.
also be mindful and thoughtful of how I want my community to grow. So yeah, I'm looking at it as long-term game here for communities is what are the ways that we can think thoughtfully and then design a tool that's going to help my group or my cohort do this or that, or make this kind of connection, or learn about each other in a way that they would not have over cocktails.
Well, that's a wonderful comment, and I I just can't endorse it more. Just thinking about it, I don't want to say my mind's blown. It's not blown, but I'm just like, yes, it's so obvious. We need to think about that. So that is great use of AI. And we could probably keep talking about community for the rest of the day, but we know we can't do that. So I want to thank you for joining me, Sandra. And before we get to your closing thought, this is our third episode celebrating AANHPI month this year. And I was wondering if you could take a moment and tell us a little bit about the AANHPI group that is at home. I'm going to say at home, that's not right, but is part of ASAE. Their home is at ASAE.
Well, I'm thrilled to not only be a member of this community, but the AANHPI community is association community, um, is just vibrant, fun, wonderful. Not only do I feel so comfortable in this community, but we are also, Qiqo is helping to sponsor their community platform. And by connecting with more folks in this way, I feel like it's allowing us to see each other more, meaning we can see who's in the group. And I think that it's hard to sometimes see in just a Zoom meeting. And if you're just doing those Zoom meetings once a month, like it's just hard to remember who's in your community. And so finally, you can see when there are more familiar faces, meaning not only familiar, but also people in your special identity groups. It's really nice to know in quantity, right? Also, who's in your community, and so when you can start to feel those intangibles in a community such as the AA and HPI community, it's just really warming and exciting and motivating because sometimes you feel alone in your industry or in I'll say in the industry I'll feel alone because it's not often that I get to meet other folks who we share same cultures with or the same kind of, cuisines, growing up or, ways of how we grew up, with different, I'll say this, tiger parents, right? Like, and in some ways that changes who you are as an adult and how you kind of lead a group or lead a community or lead a company. So all those shared experiences and knowing who else has those kind of experiences in this industry, in this professional industry, it's really nice to be able to see who's who and what they're all doing and what groups that they're leading and what companies that they're running or consultancies that they're running and what they offer to our wider community. It's just really nice to see.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you. That's a great overview of the AANHPI community at ASAE. So if you are an ASAE member, you can check out that community and collaborate and then reach out to some of their leaders and learn more about how to join that group.
Yeah, and I will do a
Because
quick shout out. Sorry to interrupt. A quick shout out because I forgot this. Gotta say, Wendy Jo Toyama, who really helped to co-found the organization or the community, and currently working with Diana Tucker, who recently became a fellow of ASAE. She is now leading the AA and HPI community. Got a hats off to them for championing this community and doing such a great job. And especially there's a big LinkedIn push right now for the AA and HPI community. So please go ahead and like everything that we're posting, get to know who's who in the community, and join us if you're not yet a part of the group.
oh, that's great. And yes, hello, Wendy. I've known Wendy for years. So hi, Wendy. Want to endorse that support. And I don't know Diana very well, but also congratulations, Diana, on being named to the Fellows Program. So that's great. This is a vibrant community doing a lot. So check them out. But Sandra, unfortunately, we need to wrap up our episode. So, what is your closing thought for the audience? What would you like them to take away today? And then, how could they get in touch with you if they'd like to learn more?
Great. Well, I think my closing thought is two things that we're all aware of, but I'm just going to articulate it. Technology is changing rapidly. It's changing twice as fast as it used to. So in 6 months, AI is changing things that will be different in a year from now. So just be aware of that, the time in which technology is changing everything, and which also is therefore changing our culture and how we are operating within our communities or in our organizations. And so just being aware of those two things and how they're related. Be open to having conversations about how we all feel about these changes, because change is uncomfortable for a lot of people. But I think one of the antidotes is the conversation piece. And how you can reach me, I'm Sandra at KiqoChat.com, or find me on LinkedIn. I would love to meet new people and chat about AI, community, anything that you'd like to chat about. Thanks, Cecilia.
Well, thank you, Sandra, and thanks for being a guest. I know you'll be back, but it's always fun having you here.
Thank you.
Well, we have to go rogue for now, but we'll be back next time with another exciting episode. So if you haven't taken a moment to follow us or subscribe on your favorite service, wherever you listen to your podcast, please take a moment and do that. We are well past 300 episodes, and that's because there's still so much to talk about. So you don't want to miss any of these great conversations that might inspire you or give you an aha moment. If you'd like to learn more about Rogue Tulips Consulting and how we can help your organization bloom outside the box, check out our website, roguetulips.com. Go to our services page and let's have a conversation. If you'd like to find this episode featuring Sandra and share it with your friends, go to our podcast page, where you can also access our podcast library and see what else we've been discussing. If you would like to learn more about ethics or get ready for the CAE exam this fall, check out our education page. We're also offering an adaptive leadership course that I think you would find interesting. So check that out too. And finally, if you'd like to know what's on my mind this week, which frankly, I don't know what it's going to be either, check out our blog post and sign up for our newsletter, and you'll get those right in your inbox every week. So thanks again for joining us this week. And on behalf of Sandra and myself, we will see you next time. That's it for this week. I hope you really loved this episode as much as I did. Thanks for listening. Learn more about how our experience and knowledge at Rogue Tulips can give your organization the strategic edge to reach its goals. Check out our website at roguetulips.com. We'd love to talk with you and see how we can work together.